Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 194 of Lords of the Storm, the weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true heroes of the storm. I am your fill-in host, TBKZord. Joining me is Multizord because Greg got jobbed.
He sure did. He's in chat though, so clearly he's got some kind of internet. Just probably not good enough internet to talk on the internet. I don't know. I'm not very good at technology.
Yeah, it apparently you need a certain level of internet to be able to do things.
So explain the internet to me. It's
a series of tubes.
It's just tubes.
Just a series of tubes.
Does it amplify our sound so that we yell loudly through the tubes? Is it kind of like those old-timey telephones where you have it's not really old-timey, but where you have a cup and a string on either end?
Yeah, it's essentially like that, and then lots and lots of little hamsters bring the stuff back and forth between points.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. This whole time I just thought I just looked at shiny screens and went off of that, but no, that's
man, you
thought
a great explanation. You thought you were just going to get Heroes talk today, but you're getting some internet knowledge. So
full history of the internet.
Yep.
Just mentioned.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, Gizmo is gone, sadly, for this episode. His job required him to be out of the state, essentially, to fill in during the holiday rush. So it's going to be me and Multi. We've actually got a lot of stuff. Turns out there was a lot of Heroes news that came out in the last several days. So we're going to...
There really always is. We were kind of talking about this before the show, but
there's never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. And I keep because we have a series of notes that we go off of for this agenda that we have. We've probably mentioned a few times, but when you open up this agenda, at first it doesn't look like it's that long, but then you've got so many links here, so much to cover that it's like, wow, even the weeks that are kind of slowish in terms of, the game, HGC isn't going out right now and so many other things. There's still just so much. It's a embarrassment of riches for sure, but
yeah, it's a lot. But before we jump in, how are you doing this week? Did you get some game time in? Has work been crazy?
Actually, work's been okay. I've got some game time in. I honestly haven't played as much Hearthstone as I'd like because the expansion came out yesterday, Rostacon's Rumble. But I've played a little bit. It's kind of like squeezing in games as I'm heading to bed and that kind of thing. But Heroes actually has been a focus of mine because, again, I'm really trying to do two things now. Trying to get enough gold for Wonder William by the end of the month, now that I got the time to do it. And now with the little event we're about to talk about here, I'm in the game of edging out hero levels so that I can get a bunch of people really close to leveling and yet not quite there, so that when this content drop happens, I can just roll them over and get hopefully a bunch of free stuff. So that's the plan.
Yep, and that's a very good plan. Good tip, because we do have a winter event coming up here real soon. So edge leveling, as it is known, is a really good idea because all the loot chests during events usually switch over to that specific event's loot chest. And so if you got a lot of heroes on the edge, that's a bunch of freebie event loot chests that, at least at this point, will have a guaranteed item.
Yeah.
If the past is any indication.
That it is. So edge leveling, again, you can sort, if you don't know this, you can sort your hero pool by who's next to level, and actually just see it as you're selecting the hero there too. So you can kind of think through, all right, if you're working on quests like I am, as well as that in quick match or anything else, you can go that route. But I will say, edge leveling is apparently a little bit more dangerous than ever. So we had one of our longtime listeners, L Train, hopped in our Discord the other day, and so he was pointing out how the Call of the Nexus bonus XP that you get.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know this until we got talking about it in the Discord, but as I understand it, the bonus on it is calculated not when you start the game, but when it completes. Am I right?
I believe there are some bugs.
Or some
currently,
bugs with it?
Attributed with it right now.
Gotcha. Well, regardless, so L-Train was talking about how he was doing that. He was edge leveling heroes, right? Just trying to get just one game within. And so he queued his Junkrat, I guess, in one. And then he had planned it out perfectly with the experience to where, probably win or loss, there was no chance he was actually going to get that level. But when the game finished, he got an extra 45,000 at the Call of the Nexus bonus, and that pushed him over into the
Oh
next
no.
level. So like,
Which normally is not a bad thing. Normally
No,
that would
yeah.
be like, oh, extra XP. That's awesome.
But it's kind of crazy. I mean, and generally, he also pointed out too that like boosts impact this too, because if you're trying to really ride the edge there and you join a game and there's 4 or 5 boosts, I mean that could push you over too.
That
which
is
is
true.
Again, usually a good thing, but like to see
unintentionally harder to edge level.
Yeah, it is. So
that's really funny.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, I'm not complaining. I would much rather have more free experience, but it's a thing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. I never really thought about that. So so be careful on your edge leveling.
Yeah. Don't be too edgy with it.
Don't be too edgy. I've been getting a lot of heroes in, as always. Team League going well. Still living the Diamond 5 life. Working on the Diamond 4 though. So the plan is to try for the D4 before the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I've probably got a few weeks left. I assume the new season's gonna start sometime in January.
I would think so. Yeah, I hopped into Q the other day, and it seems like that little bar at the bottom that shows how much time you have left. It's getting there. There's not much season left.
No, it's getting pretty close. So make sure you get in there and get your 10 games in, regardless, because that'll get you the mount. And I believe the mount is the crab.
Yeah, which
for
is
this season,
sweet.
Which is completely worth it. And if I remember correctly, someone asked how the walk was going to be, and I believe the answer was the crab is going to walk sideways.
Sideways, yeah, yeah. That's what I remember too. So, yep, that's reason enough.
Totally
now,
worth it.
Did you also do at least your placements in Hero League just to kind of hedge your bets against the
I have not.
new system coming in?
No, I just don't care about Hero League.
I have
personally
tried.
I really don't,
because again, we've even mentioned on the show there's some logic in doing both. But again, I feel like I've said this before too. But the Hero League queue is so long now that there's almost just no way. I tried again this week. I know I mentioned it last week as well, but I think I'm going to give up on that idea and just go with the Team League.
Yep. And it's all going to be one thing anyways. So
well, I know, but
regardless,
what if they're pulling your MMR from both, and mine not having finished my placements in Hero League hurts me? I mean, it's possible.
It is. We don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know. Hopefully they'll have some sort of blog post, at least somewhat ahead of the merge.
Right.
The guess is the merge is not going to happen next season. I'd be actually a little surprised if it happened next season, because they did talk about rolling these changes, all the rank changes out over the course of the year. So it'll be really interesting to see what will actually come at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would rather them roll it out properly than too soon and have it like break matchmaking and they bring it down and then they wait another year or maybe never release it. I mean,
yeah,
that's what
after the whole performance-based matchmaking stuff.
Right.
I'm sure they're going to be more careful in their rollouts.
Well, this seems like it's in. I don't see those kinds of issues coming up with this time, though.
You never see them coming.
Well, yeah, true.
I also got to spend some healthy time with the PTR, which we'll be talking about here soon. And of course, Gizmo, we miss you. Have fun doing work things while we talk about heroes. But now let's jump into the news. We've actually got a ton of stuff to talk about. First of which, reminder, December patron giveaway. We're going to be giving away a BlizzCon 2018 Orphea poster with some dev signatures on it. And that's going to be drawn from our patrons a little later in the month. So thank you, everyone who supports us through that. It means a lot to us. It's a really big deal. And this is kind of a way of saying thank you for that support. Also, in the realm of giveaway, we have the HeroesHearth Entertainment giveaway. HeroesHearth Holiday Havoc. They're giving away HeroesHearth in-game loot packs, banner spray portrait, and t-shirts. So we will have the information for that in the show notes. You can also, if you're watching live, I believe it's well, it's leaving me right now. I'm just going to link it. I'm just going to link it inside Twitch chat. But it's going through December 9th. So you've got time, even if you listen to this a few days late on audio. So definitely check that out. The t-shirts are pretty cool. And of course, the in-game stuff is always awesome as well.
Yeah, for sure. Not much time, though. That's Sunday. So
yep,
if you're listening to this on Sunday, do it.
Yep, a few days. And then speaking of other awesome stuff, holy crap, Multi, we got one of the probably coolest event content drops that I think we've ever gotten. It's been confirmed as the winter event. It's called It's Time for Toys. This is going to be running December 11th through January 7th and is toy themed.
Oh, yeah.
We have...
No, see...
Oh, go ahead.
Before you get into the specifics, I just kind of want to talk through my experience on this. So they had the teaser images that came out, right? And the first one is the Stitches. All you see is him in the Cuddle Bear Stitches. And we kind of guessed that it was Stitches. And on the box, they had a couple other heroes that were kind of, like the Butcher was on there and Mephisto and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it seemed like it was potentially going to be maybe kind of like a over-the-top Care Bear type theme overall. But then for me, when Dahaka came out, when they showed the Dahaka skin, I just immediately was like, oh my gosh, the theme is just toys. It's just toys.
Just straight toys.
And it I don't know, because as a kid, obviously I was all about that. And you see that Dahaka image, and we'll get into the skins here in a bit. But just the fact that you have the detached tail, and you can actually see the little, the little bits of those plastic ties that hold it into place and stuff. I don't know. It was just, for me, it was very nostalgic, honestly, to my toy loving childhood.
I love it. It was such a great idea. We've got Snuggle Bear Stitches.
Yes.
Teddy bear Stitches, essentially. Amazing looking. The Playtime Dahakasaurus Rex. And it's kind of like Lego-ish. Almost. Some of his animations, he's got the Legos swirling around him, and then when he burrows, it's like Legos on top of him.
Right.
Super, super cool. A Valera, I guess it's kind of like a Cosmic Force Valera, like a Power Rangers, essentially, type thing.
It's definitely action figure style.
Yeah, maybe Voltron-ish almost, because there's also the Cosmic Lion, the Voltron lion mount that comes with it, and then something that I must have, the stuffed unicorn mount, which this is definitely giving Wonder William a run for its money in terms of sheer cute ridiculousness. Yeah, no, and the fact that they're both unicorns, honestly, these, I think I like these better than Wonder William, just because if you haven't seen, and surely if you're listening to this, you've already seen the trailer for all this, but if you haven't seen the way these are animated yet, it's great. They're just kind of it is as if you were playing with one of these plush dolls and just holding its back and kind of shaking it as if you're running with it, the legs are all floppy and loose and just kind of running. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really good. So and honestly, the tongue sticking out. That's a little point. Yeah. It's adorable. And there's a bunch of different types too. There's the zombie corn. There's the fuzzy one. There's there's a pink and a purple and kind of a black brown one, and then two different colored zombie ones, and then they're missing an eye. They got a button eye instead. Yeah, that one's, I think, the best one. Yeah, and then the honey plush zombie corn has a button. Is it just one eye or is it both eyes? Do we know? I assume both the zombie ones are the same, and so the left eye that we can't see on the green one is probably the button. So it's a zombie that's missing an eye. Okay. Exactly. Sure. And not to mention, there's a whole host of portraits and sprays that are coming with this, and some of these are insanely clever. There's an Army Man Rainer, which is amazing. Remember those little bug toys you had as a kid that you could plug wings or legs into? They've got a little Abathur minion. I don't remember what the name of those
Like
honestly
those
was.
glowworms? No, no, no.
They were kind of worms, but yeah,
Where's the Abathur on this image?
it's the like the top left one, and then they've got the wind up Sergeant Hammer. They've got the little stackable rings Ragnaros. They got the Rock'em Sock'em Alliance and Horde, Orc and Human fighting the sandbox StarCraft stuff. It's the little you hammer the pegs into the thing. They've got a Warcraft gems and the Doom hammer, hammering those in. Battleship with StarCraft warships, pogo stick, Rubik's cube. Oh my gosh,
that Ragnaros ring thing, like the babies play with, where they stack the rings.
Yep,
that was pretty good too. I don't know. Here's my question: why aren't more of these things?
I know, it's like,
why isn't at least the Rock'em Sock'em Alliance versus Horde on, the Battle.net store right now? I feel like I would get that for my son immediately.
Funny you mentioned that, because we are going to talk about merchandising a little bit later. There's a lot of really sweet animated sprays as well. Other toys. There's the little hand puppet Sylvanas and Kael'thas. Just absolutely amazing. They've got another Army Man Rainer spray, skates, Lucio skates, a Leoric. Remember those little plastic sticky slappy hand things? Yep, they got a Leoric one of those. They got
with the ghost.
Yeah, with the ghost. They got the Sonya spinning top with the swords, a Slinky Stukov arm. Yeah.
Stukov arm. That's incredible.
Oh my gosh. It's so good.
I think of all these, though, the one I'm going to use is the that Horde guitar. So like an ETC guitar, but with it's one of those kiddie ones where it's got the buttons.
Yep.
That you press for the different sounds, and it's got little musical stuff coming off it. That's all about that. Definitely going that route.
Yeah. They've even got a Kel'Thuzad xylophone.
Oh yeah, he's playing it himself. Oh boy, yeah, this is just such a good event.
There's so much creativity in this. Huge props to the Heroes team, especially the art team. Wow.
Now the one that doesn't quite seem to fit for me, and I'm fine with it. I'm definitely going to get one. But the Silver Surfer mount, Celestial Surfboard.
So this is a little bit different. As you know, this is the winter event, so all the winter event skins should be coming back. So if you missed any last year, you should get another chance to get them. There's going to be a new tint for the Sylvanas skin, and I assume one of the reasons that is because she's getting her rework with this upcoming patch, so it's kind of a little extra stuff for her. And then, of course, there's going to be a new gem store mount, and that's, there's always a Celestial mount of some sort, and then this time it's the Celestial Surfboard. So instead of water, it's just like you're riding a galaxy.
Which, isn't that what Silver Surfer did? I'm not a comic book guy, but
I mean, he flew around the galaxy on a silver surfing board, so kinda.
Yeah.
It's kind of
close enough.
And just in time, because I think there's going to be a big incentive to get gems with some of this stuff.
That's true.
Because I'm probably going to buy everything, because I'm a sucker for that. Also coming with this is a really cool little board game event. So it looks like this is going to be one of the most interactive quest components that they've done so far. So it's this whole board layout. You roll the dice, you complete all active event quests to roll the dice, move around the board, and unlock new quests. You knock down dominoes along the way on the board to unlock unique quests with special rewards. You travel around the entire board to unlock, and get this, and this, if you haven't seen the video for this, you need to watch it because it's amazing. But there's a kid announcer, just a young kid announcer who's super hype, that is coming, and you get that by traveling around the entire board for this event.
And you had answered my tweet on this. How did you know, first of all? And also, it's apparently a real kid. It's not a voice actor doing a really good kid impression.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's actually a real kid, and I saw it on Reddit.
Okay,
I believe
that's cool.
is where I saw it. But the special stuff you can get from the quest rewards, you can get the Hakasaurus quest rewards like a spray and a banner. You can get some of the plush unicorn emoticons. There's some of the Cosmic Force Valera stuff and the Cosmic Lion stuff. Some emoticons with that. A few Stitches things. A really cute Funland Warcrest banner. And then at the very end, if you make it around the board once, you earn the Kid Announcer and Portrait. And then each subsequent completion earns a rare loot chest.
Yeah, so you can just keep rolling with it afterwards, which is cool.
I like the idea of the endless quest for the limited time of the event.
Well, I mean, it gives you another avenue to work on loot chests, and rare ones at that. So, like, you know, I'm edging out my heroes right now, L-Train as well, as best as he can. That's one avenue. Here's another one. Yeah, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't keep pursuing the quests. Now, do we know much details about what the quests themselves are? Do we assume it's kind of like it was previously in the last event, where it's
that's kind of what
items?
I'm gonna assume.
I'm also assuming, just by looking at this, that so it had said complete all active event quests to roll the dice, move around, and unlock new quests. As I'm reading this, it seems to me like there's probably some RNG into this, but I feel like I could roll a 6 on the die and then maybe pick up a few, you know, and then have to finish.
Yeah, or maybe go around faster.
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. This, like I said, I think this seems like it's going to be the most complex, like, quest event that they've done so far with these kind of events. So I'm actually really excited to try this out. Mm-hmm. So that is coming. As of now, that is coming December 11th. So next Tuesday, that will be on the live servers.
Last note on this: I love how at the bottom of the blog on this, they say, "Wow, this is the coolest event ever." It's like, yep, yeah, I kind of agree. Actually,
it's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. And apparently it goes through January 7th, so that's not bad either. That's
that's a
Christmas
good while.
break plus some. So yeah,
and I like that they. I mean, I know some people are probably like, where's our regular Christmas skins and whatnot? But I kind of like that they're really stretching their creative muscles, I guess, and doing some kind of really off-the-wall stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Because I must have the plush Stitches skin. I must.
Agreed. And honestly, like, you know, I mean, if they had just gone straight Christmas skins again without this extra theming around it, I mean, I would have been excited too, but it's kind of like, all right, who's going to be Great Father Winter this year, and who's going to get the sexy Sugar Plum Fairy costume? You know, I mean, I feel like this was way more creative. You know?
The only problem is, and this is actually kind of a little joke from one of the community content shoutouts we're going to talk about later, is that they showed so many more like potential ones that really aren't skins yet. Like they showed in the little teaser images, they showed a Mephisto plushie and a Butcher plushie. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I want those to be skins too.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Are those at least sprays or portraits? I don't think so.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I want them to be skins or actual plushies. Blizzard, please.
Yeah, there you go.
Heroes plushies.
Would I buy a Cuddles Bear Stitches right the heck now? Yeah, I would.
Probably.
Sure would. Mm-hmm. With all those pieces of yarn sticking out of its gut and everything.
Yep, totally. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's coming. Get excited. Edge level, so you can get ready for your loot boxes and make sure to snatch up any of the previous winter skins that you don't have while they're back and available. Okay, so big stuff. PTR was released on Monday. There is a lot of stuff. We're gonna kind of go through it a little bit here and there. First off, big thing. This includes. I was right, Greg. Stitches and Sylvanas.
That's
reworks. And Stitches and Sylvanas have both received several updated effects and animations to match their gameplay. And this is actually really cool because so Sylvanas' new trait, when you activate it, you get the Banshee wings.
Yeah, which is cool.
And they redid her Hearth animation, so she does the little Banshee wail from the cinematic. The BFA cinematic.
So they did find a way to give that to her.
It's amazing.
I haven't gotten a chance to try either of them out yet myself, but yeah, that's cool. All right.
So that was big deal. So the first thing they talk about in this is armor, and we talked about this last week. This is the big armor change coming. So now, just like movement speed modifiers, the game will apply only the highest or lowest amount of armor to a hero at any given time. And then they've adjusted the ability/talent armor values on a per hero basis to account for the change. So just to make it really simple, it's basically highest armor value minus lowest armor value equals current armor value.
Yeah,
that just makes it super easy to calculate. So if I, as Uther, threw a heal on you and you got like 50 armor, and then someone did a 25 armor debuff on you, you would have 25 armor.
I read this differently. Are we sure that's right? Because I read it as
exactly right.
It will apply only the highest amount of armor to a hero at any given time. So they would stay with 50 because someone applied 25 after the 50 is still taken.
No, negative 25 is what I said.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. If someone applied 50 and then another thing applied 25, yes, you would keep the 50 because that would be the highest.
Right.
The highest.
Okay.
Yeah. So it won't stack anymore. It's just going to take the very highest minus the very lowest if there's a negative as well.
And to compensate for this, it seems like they've gone through several different heroes. We're not going to go through all of these, of course. But
pretty much every armor talent or ability got touched and increased slightly.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, it's like Raynor's Bounty Hunter trait is going from 5 to 10. So, there's just things like that that's kind of making up for this. I'm guessing it was a balance thing. They probably implemented this change and then said, ooh, some people are really getting blown up with this change. So they built in a little bit more baseline armor and a few of those heroes to make up for it.
I mean, armor stacking used to be a thing.
It did.
It used to be a big thing.
To be clear, too, this also seems to impact like armor, which is, of course, both, but then also physical and spell armor, too. So big change.
Yeah, really big change. I think it'll be good, though. I think this is an overall healthy change, and they don't have to worry about things like we saw with Yrel with just the massive armor stacking that we were seeing.
It is kind of a pocket nerf to heroes that helped with armor stacking, and I hope that you think of like Uther even just applying the armor with his heals. You hope they do something with Uther and heroes like that to kind of compensate too, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think this will probably make things easier for them to balance in the long run, because they won't have to worry about a team being able to put together to give everyone 50 or 75 armor all the time.
Right.
Because that just is ridiculous. Next. So, this has been a little bit of a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
So originally on Monday, when the PTR came out, they rolled out what is known as the 2019 experience changes. And so originally in this, when a team destroys a fort now, they gain a catapult every third minion wave. And so every fort you destroyed, boom, you get a catapult now in that lane every third wave. And then from the experience side, they removed all experience from destroying a fort or keep. They decreased the experience earned from destroying towers by 50%. The passive experience gain was increased by 15%. And they increased experience gain by defending mercenaries by 100%. So this is really interesting because this went in on Monday. There was a lot of pro feedback from the BlizzCon build, because this was in the BlizzCon build originally. And there was a lot of worry from the pro scene from BlizzCon, and Blizzard, for the most part, just said, just wait and try it out yourselves. So they put it up. A lot of people have been testing. In fact, it was very easy to get PTR games for both Monday and Tuesday when I played, because there seemed to be more than the average amount of people testing the PTR, which is good because this is a giant change.
Yeah, they need the data to figure out how to fix this. But anyway.
And several pros for the last several days have been streaming custom matches, like full custom matches on the PTR. The consensus from a lot of the community, a lot of the pro side, a lot of the theory crafting side, seems to have come true in the fact that the changes as is seemed to be pushing the game towards a very passive state where soak was far more important than objectives, and taking forts was actually, especially early game, was actually not advisable, because the catapults would then passively push the lane and give the enemy a safe soak lane, because now no matter what, the lane will passively push. And so
which like, I mean, that feature alone, like totally in a vacuum, even in the current live system, is still kind of true. Like if you push a lane out super far early game, you're still affording them a chance to get some extra soak, while you'd be way overextending if you're stepping up that far. But to be clear, the difference here that's happening is, again, because pushing that fort or keep isn't getting you experience, just baseline. You're getting less for the towers in front of it as well. So you're not really getting as much out of doing that in terms of experience, obviously. And so it doesn't make up for that gap.
Yeah. And the fact that now if you pull out of lane to do the objective and the enemy team, say, stays and soaks, because that minion experience is now worth so much more, and even if you get the objective and you take down a fort or two and you don't get any experience from that, that can actually leave the other team who didn't do the objective ahead still.
Right.
So
you almost just don't want to do objectives, which
yeah, it's
kind of defeats the purpose. So yeah.
So it's very, very controversial change. I've seen some back and forth from people on both sides on why this is good, why this is bad. There's a lot of people scared that this was going to go live on Tuesday without maybe proper testing, I guess, or with so much concern. And then there's the whole discussion of, do you balance for the pro level? Do you balance for the average person? Is this really affecting the average person that much? And so on and so forth. So as of today, I was prepared for this to be going live on Tuesday, and then them having to tweak it back, or change it, or leave it as is if that was their new vision, for the game. But today, interestingly enough, they made a upcoming XP changes blog post, and this was just maybe this afternoon. They said, we wanted to take a moment to address some of the concerns from our community about the experience updates on the PTR this week. As with all our balance changes, the Heroes team spends months internally playtesting and iterating before bringing these changes to PTR for further feedback. Now that PTR is live, our team has been hard at work monitoring the new 2019 experience updates and listening to feedback. Based on this feedback and data, the team is currently exploring making some revisions to the 2019 experience updates to include more incentives for taking forts and keeps. We are currently iterating on these changes internally and plan to release an update to the 2019 experience changes in next week's patch. While we don't have any additional information to share about these changes just yet, know that we are listening and that your feedback is incredibly valuable. Thank you so much for taking time to test. So let's unpack that just a little bit.
Yeah, because baseline, it's great. I mean, it's proof that they are listening, that they took a moment to review it and said, when we've been testing this for a while, and now that it's out there and people are really sinking their teeth into it, they're not liking it. They're not liking how it changes the way you play the game, the way you focus on objectives, et cetera, et cetera. So like, yeah, I'll let you unpack it however you like. But my gut reaction when I first read this was, oh, great, they're listening to feedback.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit more to it than that. So
yeah, and they are listening to feedback, and I think more than any of the other Blizzard dev teams, this team has really shown they are very willing to listen to feedback, and I think that's great.
Oh, yeah.
There are definitely a lot of unknowns in here. So interestingly enough, they make mention that they have been testing these changes for months. And so this is kind of something that caught my eye a little bit, because I know there's some people who have come out and said, we really should just throw these on live so that we can get actual testing data and such, because that's the only way to do it. And I would agree with that in some ways, but then this blog post kind of sparked something really interesting, because Blizzard spent months testing this update. They said even at BlizzCon that it was weird playing on live because they've been testing this for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
And so it makes it's very interesting to me that for something they've been testing for months, and something that has been tested on the PTR for 2.5 days, it feels to me that they saw data that they never saw internally, or saw things that they never saw internally, that made it like them cautious enough to say, uh-oh, we need to make some changes, because this is a big deal. Like, yeah. I would assume something you test for months, you make a few tweaks, maybe you go to live, but this tells me that they're seeing stuff that they didn't expect to see.
Which makes me wonder, so, a lot of times when changes come in, if, for instance, when this goes live regardless, there's going to be X number of people out there in the real world that just don't even know that the changes are happening, never read the patch notes, never listened to this show, anything like that. And they're just not going to change their strategy in game. My thought is maybe that the team also, not in the same way, because obviously they know what the changes are, but maybe when they were playing a lot of those test matches, they didn't really change their strategy either. Maybe they, just kept going for the objective when you're supposed to, come back to lane when you're supposed to. And perhaps it did just take getting the game into the hands of the actual players, even in the PTR format, which is, again, a tiny fraction of what you'd get on live for sure in terms of data and feedback. But maybe the real players had to sit down and say, okay, how do we now min-max this game? How do we now break it? What is the best thing to do? Should we just stay in lane? Is that the thing now? And then people are testing that and finding out that might be the case. Also, there's things like, I know a lot of this effort was about narrowing the gap between teams to where, like, even if a team is really doing well, they aren't way ahead, like 3-4 levels ahead in mid game.
Yeah.
But didn't you say, TBK, there's been cases where it was fairly extremely close, given how much a team was dominating as well? So
yeah, and like you can only go so much off of PTR games.
Right.
Like my own experience and stuff. I would lean more towards looking at the full custom games on the PTR. But
that's true.
Yeah, it's like I said. My guess is that just from a data standpoint, being on the PTR, and it seems like this must be the case, being on the PTR for 2.5 days probably gave them more data than months of internal playtesting.
Yeah,
just due to the nature of letting tons of people in.
And for anyone that was on the fence about it, saying, why do we even have a PTR when they just launch all the regular changes anyway? They've gone back on several of their changes between the PTR and live. But this is a huge one. And again, it's just thanks to people actually getting in there, giving feedback, and doing the thing. Now, my other concern with this, TBK, to unpack it a little bit further, is the line where they say, we are currently iterating on these changes internally and plan to release an update to the 2019 experience changes in next week's patch. So that's where I start to wonder.
Yeah, it's a little nebulous.
Seems like they're going to try to fix it and then just release something, and we have no idea what that is or any way to give feedback on it before it's in live.
I'm a little worried because my hope for this is that we see... I think best case scenario would be you release the reworks, you release the armor changes and the winter event, and hold off the experience changes from the next patch, do a second PTR. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense to hold back everything if you can help it, because you don't want to delay the winter event and everything else.
But definitely not with holidays coming up.
Exactly. But at the same time, like at the very least, when they say they've been testing something for months, I'm more comfortable with them just pushing that to live and then iterating it on it, rather than saying, crap, we're going to have to go back and make some changes. Here's the changes we made in a week, and then we throw those changes to live. That doesn't sit near as well with me.
Because the changes are probably going to be just some happy medium between the two, and I'm optimistic about it. I think I even tweeted out earlier that it's clear they're listening to feedback and that they're going to come out with something that's somewhere between this new approach and the old one. Like maybe we get small amounts of EXP for the forts and keeps, and maybe instead of cutting down the towers by 50%, maybe it's just they decrease it by 25%. I mean, there's a lot of numbers tweaks they could do to try to address this, and that honestly is I think what we're going to get in this one. It's just some strange numbers tweaks that probably make sense on paper, but when we get in and play, we're still going to be like, I don't know, in this weird spot between the extremes, right? How it is now and how they were changing it to, and that could be concerning too.
Yeah, I'm hoping this ends up being a second week of PTR and not orange text.
Yeah,
that is based on a week. That's really what I'm hoping. So we don't have confirmation either way yet.
The trick there though is again kind of going back to the holidays, So like it's supposed to release on the 11th. If they do another week of PTR, those changes would come through on the 18th. Like there's no way they'd push it another week because that's the 25th, kind of an important day in the month for many people.
Well, honestly, though, I think this is big enough that if you're not comfortable with it, and if you are either going back to the drawing board, scrapping it completely, or trying other permeations of it,
or even
which is what it sounds, which is what it sounds like.
I'll bet they've got testers going like nuts right now.
That's something you need to wait for. Just wait until January, if you have to, and leave it on the PTR until January. I don't think the game. The only concession with this is, what do we do for HGC season and stuff like that. And yes, that is definitely a concern. That is definitely a factor. But I don't think the game is in such a bad state right now that something needs to be pushed through without properly vetting it and then using live as like we're going to be tweaking this now for the next 3 or 4 patches to get it in a state that's fun. Personally.
Totally with you on that. If I'm playing the devil's advocate, and again, just kind of looking at it, technically though, this is the time of year to do that in live as well, just because the HGC isn't going on. Except that we're just finishing up a season, I guess. But, I see logic either way on that one. But by gut and everything is totally with you on that. I think
personally
pushing it to January makes sense to me too.
I'd prefer if they don't have something concrete, or if they have something that's drastically changed or needs more testing, keep a PTR going throughout December so we can give good feedback. And then potentially do something to live after the holidays, because you're going to be able to respond faster after the holidays too. and we can still get the new armor changes in. We can still get the reworks in. We can still get the winter event started. Said I don't know how easy it would be necessarily to separate those from like from a game build standpoint. But we'll definitely be watching that. And if it goes to live, I mean, if it goes to live, it goes to live. There's nothing we can do about it. But please give feedback. And I know I always need to just, as a reminder, please make it constructive. Don't yell at the devs. Don't threaten them. This is a game still. Your livelihood, well, some people's livelihoods do depend on it, and that's honestly one of the reasons why we've seen the pros probably be more vocal about this, is because yes, their livelihoods are riding on this to an extent. But for most people, your livelihood is not riding on it. So try to be as constructive as possible and not just say this sucks, but say why it sucks.
Yeah,
and in a constructive way.
Honestly, in part just because the constructive feedback is what's actually actionable. And also the more specific the feedback is, the better there as well. You know, I mean, hop on the forum and tell the story about how your game went, as opposed to just, oh man, I can't push it all with Sylvanas anymore, blah, 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 you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to, like I said, we can't really talk about this a whole lot more because all these changes are completely moot now. Like,
yeah, right.
We have no idea what they're changing it to, so we really can't discuss what it's going to be a whole lot anymore. One suggestion I did see kind of going around that was kind of interesting, that keeps a lot of the stuff intact. One of the big things this whole experience change was supposed to do is help prevent snowballing. And snowballing is basically you get a lead and then you just continue to build and build and build and build on that lead to the point where the enemy team has almost no hope of coming back because you're just so much more powerful than them. And one of the big things on this, on a lot of maps, and a lot of people say, instead of these mass experience changes, we should be doing map balances instead, because some of these snowball effects are much more prevalent on certain maps than other maps. But one of the big things is objectives being, like early objectives being strong enough to take forts. And right now, forts and towers are worth a decent chunk of XP. So you win the first, and the HGC data, a lot of the data backs it up. The team that wins the first objective will more often than not win the game. And so when you look at it like that, should the first objective be as powerful as it is? One thing Liquid Arcaner had thrown up and suggested to do something like, instead of all the big XP changes, give armor to forts for the first 5 minutes and armor to keeps for the first 12 minutes.
So you can't just take an early game runaway.
Yeah, it helps. It makes it far less likely to necessarily take a fort with the first objective, potentially, but then removes kind of, I guess, the handicap. The overall idea, he says, is the first objective shouldn't be able to get a fort on maps like Volskaya, Sky Temple, Tomb, Alterac, BOE, Braxis, and then the rest of the maps, he says, aren't snowballing off the first objective, and second objective shouldn't be getting keeps.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Because the whole idea, and this is something that Blizzard talks about too, the whole idea is they want to keep the games at this magic, 20, 22 minute time limit. And so they have to balance kind of based on that. So all the changes they do, they're always in the back of their minds saying, does this push game time up too high? Right. Or does this bring game time down too low? So I just
create a snowball, or
So I just wanted to point that out because that seemed like a really interesting change that would be fairly simple. You would have to find a good way to communicate that, but that seems like a good change that would be fairly simple. The communication of that,
that could do that
at the same time.
Yeah, I like it. Not to cut you off there. It has to be in game, and to me, it has to be visually super obvious. Maybe for instance, like uh, maybe if they decay over time, or if the armor just drops off at the 5 and 12 minute mark, like Arkinder's mentioning here. Um, in game, I could see like obviously you'd be able to see the armor on the buildings like you do the core if you look at the health bar, but maybe there'd be another visual cue where like it's got maybe like a golden sort of looking force field around the edges, or it's slightly glowing on the edges. Can you picture this? Where it just looks like it's a little tougher and shielded.
Yeah,
And
or
then
you could
the
have a
shields
little
come down.
take it a little armor symbol indicator that's slowly ticking down until it disappears.
Yeah, there could be
Yeah.
something to not the immediate drop-offs, because then like your strategy would be, okay, get in the best position possible to burn this thing down at the 5 minute mark. That doesn't sound great either. But maybe a decay, like even a slow decay of, all right, early game at the 5 minute mark, it pretty much has no armor, but it from like, I don't know, the 4 to the 5 minute mark, it starts decaying down. You see that bar drop, you see the shielding animation around it kind of like lessening, and then you're back to normal. There's something there.
Yeah, there could be. And who knows? I mean, at this point, all bets are off with what they're trying. There's been a lot of, honestly, there's been a lot of really good suggestions thrown around with how to help with that. From, they said, touching the individual maps to this armor type thing, to potentially keeping things kind of like they were, but giving some experience back to the forts and keeps. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's bound to continue to be a hot button issue. So I have faith in the Heroes dev team. They've done really good stuff. They've been really good at listening to feedback. So I will continue to believe that they will hopefully do what's best for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Next, and this is another really interesting thing. This had no dev comments, which was super odd to me, because it seems like a huge change. Unit radii, the unit radius values for most heroes have been reduced by 5 to 15%.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a big change.
That's huge.
Also, is that
Or
really the plural
small.
of radius? Radii?
Radii, I think so.
Oh, man. That bums me out. Anyway, yeah. Is it really spelled Radii? And how have I never known this? Like,
How many times do you say, do you need
out.
multiple radii?
Radiuses?
Radiuses?
I guess I've also never said radiuses. Good point. Man, okay. Anyway, I'm gonna Google this while you keep going. But yes. Explain the radii changes.
So basically, a smaller radius is how much smaller the heroes become, affecting how easy it is to body block or hit with skill shots. So this just affects their radius on the ground. Their model hasn't changed. So somebody went through and actually checked all the percentages.
Mm-hmm.
And has them listed off. And I'll have a link in the chat right now. It's good job, Reddit user Lemon Talk. Probably didn't pronounce that right. But it's really interesting. So like, there's some people who haven't had a huge change, and some people who have had a massive change. Like Kael'thas, he is 19% smaller, radius-wise.
Which is significant. So he got another cape trimming. Is what he did.
He got another cape trimming. He's been on like keto.
Yeah.
And
it's already really thin, which is the weird thing, but whatever.
Yeah. So Alex Straza got trimmed by 17%. Kel'Thuzad, 13%. And then the lowest is Diablo, Sergeant Hammer, Diva Mech, Cho'Gall, Asmodan, Zagara, 5%. But it's super interesting because in a lot of ways, this feels like it's going to be a nerf, just blanket nerf to heroes who are mostly skill shot based.
Yeah, totally with you there. And also, you mentioned Diablo's on the lower end of that, but he was so big to begin with that a 5% reduction in Diablo's hitbox is still huge by comparison to some of these heroes. So yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, it's not just skill shots this is nerfing, but the concept of body blocking.
Yeah. Yeah. I really hope that when the actual patch notes come out, we have some dev comments on this, because this seems like a really big deal to just kind of leave in a little one-liner. Oh yeah, unit radius values for most heroes have been reduced by 5 to 15%. And moving on to the hero reworks.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of these do just kind of make sense when you think about it. Like Kael'thas again. I mean, he's a squishy, not very many escapes, ranged assassin mage, and I mean he never needed as big of a hitbox as he had just because he has a cape animation, you know. So I get that one, but some of these, yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know. Like I said, I hope we find out the why of that. If it's something that made it easier for them, or if they're just changing the way things, I don't know. I assumed it helped in some respect. Moving on. Good Lord, this is a huge patch. Heroes. So Phoenix got some nerfs in quite a few ways. Well,
Yeah, he did.
A little bit of both. The big one being his purification salvo got a damage reduction, and this is something that several people I've seen have been asking about, because you can do a lot of damage with purification salvo. So that did get a little nerf. And then he's got some changes on his level 4, 7, and 13 talents. We won't go over everything because Sylvanas and Stitches both got full reworks, huge talent tree changes. We're not gonna have time to talk through all of them, but we're gonna try and hit on the highlights. So some balanced stuff for Phoenix, which seems pretty good. Sylvanas, this is huge. So if you liked how old Sylvanas played, you're going to have to get ready, because she does not play the same.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got from the video and everything else as well.
She's very much assassin now, and not just like I can go AFK push a lane type thing. Her health has been increased, and her health regen, her basic attack damage was reduced a little bit. Her Q
to make up for some changes. So
exactly. Her
it's
Q
a nerf, but not really.
Was changed completely. Now when you press Q, all 5 charges of Withering Fire shoot out at the closest enemy, all at the same time, just one after the other. They do not specifically prioritize heroes either. So just your closest enemy, and if that changes between arrows, it'll change. It's got a mana cost now. The damage was reduced. The range was increased. The cooldown was increased from 2 to 8 seconds, but now the cooldown restores all the charges. No longer gains charges on minion kills. Nearby hero takedowns now refresh the cooldown of this ability. The fire rate was reduced to be 50% slower. And it cannot be
significantly slower. Yeah.
Yeah. And it cannot be cast while a previous cast of Withering Fire is still firing.
Which makes sense there. So
yeah, exactly. So that got fully changed. Shadow Dagger now no longer spreads automatically. You throw Shadow Dagger onto a primary target, and then any damage dealt by Sylvanas to that primary target will spread its effects to nearby enemies.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on her attacking the primary target, and without getting into all of the details in her talents and everything, which we'll touch on some of them, of course, but there's just a whole new approach to making sure you're doing basically like single target basic attack damage on Sylvanas, which is kind of a different take.
Yeah, she's almost like a dueler in a lot of ways, like a very strong dueler.
A basic attack hero. I mean, there's this flair and flourish to it and stuff you're shooting for, but when we get into the new black arrows, it'll make a little more sense. So
yeah, Haunting Wave had its base speed increased by 6%. Mind control is now changed completely. The cooldown was reduced from 60 to 50 seconds. And now instead of a point and click where you mind control someone, you're frozen, and then you direct them kind of wherever you want. Now it's after a 0.25 second cast, you're going to launch a missile, so skill shot now, that impacts the first enemy hero in the path. Impacted heroes are silenced, slowed by 30%, and forced to walk towards Sylvanas for 1.75 seconds. But so now you're no longer frozen as Sylvanas either.
So there's that, but this is now just a charm that we've seen in some other games. Like I know, is it Ahri in League of Legends that has that skill shot charm?
That's kind of what I liken this to.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a different take on it. I didn't think mind control was that bad as it was, but I guess maybe there had been something with the rework where they were testing it with the old mind control and it just wasn't working out. Maybe.
As pointed out to me, I didn't like it at first, honestly, and I still don't know if I do, but as pointed out to me on Twitter, this in particular makes her an incredible duelist, because in a 1v1 scenario, that is silenced, 30% slow, forced to walk towards Sylvanas, and so you've got almost 2 seconds of complete incapacitation on the person while you're dealing a bunch of damage. And then potentially you can get talents later on, like the new Barb shot at level 7, where hitting the same enemy with all 5 shots of Withering Fire causes the last shot to deal 350% bonus damage.
Yeah. Well, and also you would presumably get the mind control off after you've already stacked up to all 3 stacks of Banshee's Curse, which we'll talk about in just a second here, the new trait. So, I mean, yeah, there's something there. I can see her winning some duels.
It definitely seems like she's getting turned a little more into a duelist.
Yeah. You know what else she's going to win, by the way? And I can say this freely since Gizmo isn't on this episode.
Your heart?
The war against the Alliance.
Oh, yes.
She's going to win that.
Probably.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that.
And Sourfang. To heck with Sourfang. I'm going to throw that out there. He's a traitor. Anyway,
I honestly, like, I am out of the WoW stuff right now. So,
but you saw the short, right?
I did see the short.
He's commiserating with the enemy.
I've always had a special spot in the cold black part of my heart for Sylvanas.
Yes.
And then finally, as you alluded, her Black Arrows trait is getting completely changed. It's no longer passive. It is an activatable. So when you activate it now, you cause all basic attacks and abilities to stun minions, mercenaries, and structures for 3 seconds over the next 10 seconds. And it's a 40-second cooldown.
Which, before you move on, I've got to say, we've been talking about this for a while. We'd mentioned that could it just work as an activatable? And the answer is yes.
Yep. That does seem to be where they landed on. And it's going to be really interesting, because it's going to make, I think this whole rework seemed to be putting more choice into Sylvanas.
Right.
In like when she does things and what she does, but it also allows you to not be able to go up to a fort, shut it down completely, and then just have the enemy team, ride all over you. Like it's not going to be quite like that anymore. But because of the cooldown, originally it used to be that procced off of abilities and auto attacks. Then they changed it not too long ago to only be off of auto attacks. And so now with the cooldown, they're adding in it working from everything again.
But it's always been a design space problem for them, because
they've mentioned it a ton.
They've even said that like when they're planning around even map design as well as other heroes and that sort of thing, they've constantly talked about the fact that they always have to think about Sylvanas, because it's like, oh, okay, well, but what if she just shuts down the entire lane? Then what happens? And
now they don't have to worry about that near as much.
And yet she still can do it for, I mean, it's only 3 seconds, but if that's the 3 seconds it takes you to start your team up on taking down that fort, etc. I mean, the fort's not going to give you any experience, but you could try.
Yeah, I mean, technically,
I'm just joking.
Technically, right now, you can shut a single thing down for 13 seconds. Right now, because when you hit something, and just in case,
over the next 10 seconds,
yeah, just in case that's a little confusing. As soon as you hit something with an ability or a basic attack while that's going on, it'll shut it down for 3 seconds. That can be refreshed over the course of the 10 seconds.
Gotcha.
With other stuff. So yeah, you could technically shut something down for 13 seconds.
Which is still a good amount of
still
time.
It's still pretty good, but it's not indefinite.
And you have to plan for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not something you're going to be able to just, again, the whole Sylvanas AFK lane thing. That's just not going to be what it was anymore. You're going to have to adapt to this new thing. And like many people are saying, I've seen a few big Sylvanas players really like the new style. I know Jay Howe specifically, I've seen him tweet a few times because he's been a big Sylvanas player. He's just been saying it is a different play style. It is. So if you're a Sylvanas main now, you might not like it.
Yeah, that's true. And we haven't even touched on what's honestly the biggest change here to me anyway, is the passive functionality of Banshee's Curse now. So you can activate it to do what we were just talking about, but the passive now is basic attacks, infect enemies with Banshee's Curse for 3 seconds. Sylvanas deals 25% bonus damage to enemies with 3 stacks of Banshee's Curse. And that's all sources of damage. So it's not just that her basic attacks ramp up or just abilities. It's everything. So like
that even leans more toward the duelist.
It leads toward the duelist. It really incentivizes you to stay on one target. And we've seen that before. You know, we've seen so many talents on ranged assassins like this where, you know, every third shot on the same hero might give you bonus damage and that kind of thing. But this really incentivizes you to get those stacks up and then just stick to that target. So, yeah, I mean, that is totally different from how I used to play her. I guess I would do that sometimes just because that's how it works out when you play a ranged assassin like this. But a lot of my damage was being spread out. You know, I was letting the dagger spread as it does and doing everything else. And so, yeah, this totally different change here.
Yep. We're not going to go through all our talent changes. There's a lot. No. There's so many of them. I would just highly recommend get into the PTR, try her out if you liked playing her before, or if you didn't like playing it before, try her out because she's different now. So
yeah, there you go.
Check her out, play around with the talents. I'm sure over the next week or two, check all your builds. I'm sure HeroesHearth is going to have a lot of different builds that people make.
We should go over her again for sure.
Yeah, and we'll add her to, of course, to our hero rework of the week docket. Because both her and then now Stitches are fairly large reworks. So for him,
we talked about him some last week.
A little bit. He's not going to get quite as crazy of a change as she is, but there's definitely quite a bit different to him. First off being his hook range was reduced from 12.5 to 11 baseline. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's noticeable. It is definitely noticeable. They wanted to take a little bit of the power out of the hook and spread that out. Remember the power pies they talked about, not this BlizzCon, but last BlizzCon.
With Hanzo.
Yeah, with Hanzo. That hook was just a large part of his power pie because he could pull people from, you know, a third halfway across the screen over to him. It's big. It's a big deal. But then if you miss too, that's a huge oh crap moment for you, because then it's like, oh, I guess I'm waiting around for a hook again. And so what they're trying to do is make him less of a I'm just a hook machine,
right?
Essentially.
Right. Yeah, I think Cawthon last week said it the best when he said that like there was a place for Stitches, but it was kind of cheese. You know, it was about the grab and the follow up, and these changes, to speak with them broadly, is less about that and more about making him a bruiser from there, by changing things like, I think another huge one is the Vile Cleaver change for sure, where you no longer get Vile Gas from getting damaged. It's now basic attacks applying it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I mean, honestly, like you could say both of these reworks are heroes where their basic attack approach is totally different.
Oh yeah, no, this definitely feels like it's incentivizing Stitches to be much more of a bruiser, to get in there, to be auto attacking. The slam change in particular too. His slam has changed now. The cast time was increased slightly. The cooldown was reduced from 8 to 6 seconds. The range was increased from 8 to 9.5, and the mana cost was reduced from 40 to 30. But now it's got added functionality where there's an inner area of this, this big cone. There's an inner area now and an outer area. And if you hit someone in the inner area, which incents you to be close to them, you deal 40% extra bonus damage, and it applies a 40% slow for a second and a half.
Which is significant. Like 40 is a pretty big one.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's building a baseline slow into slam is something a lot of people have asked for, just because it's so useful. So it'll be interesting to see what type of like bruiser or potentially main tank type builds come out of this once he's fully live.
So what do you think about him as a main tank now? I mean, I don't want to go too in depth here, but
I mean,
so he's got the peel. You can pull things away from your back line.
Yep, you still got a helping hand.
Still got all that.
You now got a built-in slow into slam.
But gap closer, some of these other features that we look for in a main tank, I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't know.
It's interesting. He's got some really interesting talents now. There's a lot more to his talent tree. I think the talent tree was made far more interesting. Although, rip Retchling, you will be missed.
Ah, yes.
I'm very sad that our little Retchling buddy.
And amplified healing. I still can't believe that he still had amplified healing.
And he got kind of a new version of it as well. But they made it more interesting. It's actually a level 1 talent now, but it increases all healing by 15%, and then nearby minion and hero kills heal him for 30 or 300 baseline.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah. There's a lot more talents, it seems, out of him having self-sustain. Very, very strong self-sustain hero. And he still does have Fishing Hook. And the range bonus was increased from 40 to 50%, which kind of makes up a little bit for the lowered base range. So you still will have the potential to do those long hooks. I'm really glad they left that in, because it seems like that's such an iconic part of his kit that would have been a shame to remove.
Yeah, it would. And yet, I mean, the range is still not as long on it because it starts off shorter. So yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But overall, I got to play him a little bit. I'm really excited. I think he's going to be a big old bully. Cool. And it makes me super happy, because that's kind of how I played him anyways. But now I'm incented to do it, because I'm incented to auto attack people to spread Vile Gas.
Get the close range.
Yeah. And get the close range
yeah.
slams. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he will be a very fun bruiser. Whether he can be a main tank or not with specific builds, I think is still kind of up in the air.
If he's going to main tank, he's going to do it through self-sustain for sure.
Yeah.
Which is how Mal'Ganis does it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a thing.
It's true. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think I'm pretty excited. I'm very excited for the Stitches rework. I didn't play a ton of Sylvanas. I think this is going to get me to play her again, or at least try her out. Because it is a new play style. So
I like basic attack ranged heroes, so yeah. Could be cool.
Yep. Okay, so I think that's it. Big PTR patch. Lots to talk about. Lots that is still up in the air. So hopefully we'll have some more info next week on what the actual changes are going to end up being. So with that,
or if they pushed it back.
Yeah, or if they pushed it back.
Yeah.
Which I highly doubt they'll push anything back but the experience.
Well, yeah, no, I was referring to
the experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a very interesting next week, regardless, on the live servers, whether or not that's changed or not. You will probably, if you see me in game, you will probably see me in Teddy Bear Stitch's skin, hooking people and eating them into my soft, fluffy tummy.
Very fluffy.
Very fluffy. Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving on, and this is something we didn't get to talk about last week, and it's still relevant this week. So we're going to jump into some HGC discussion. First off, just as a heads up for anyone who's not following closely, we still do not have HGC 2019 news. So
right.
We're not gonna dwell on that a lot. There's several esports that have still not been announced. Hearthstone was just recently announced.
Half announced, which was interesting. They
half announced. Yeah.
I'm going to go about it, but they didn't give a lot of specifics, and also they mentioned that they were going to change the format of how the games actually play out too. And as of yet, I don't think we have much on that either. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just these teams prepping to make the right announcement at the right time. So I'm not like,
and who knows? It could be a result of the whole changeover with Mike Morheim leaving and that delaying things as new leadership comes, on board.
Could be.
We've had that in our company before, where you're working on stuff and then you have the CEO change and everything kind of goes into hibernation mode for a little bit until new leadership shakes out. I don't think that's an uncommon thing, just in big companies in general. I don't know if that's actually the case or not. That's just kind of a guess.
Yeah, we're actually just now starting to see some major changes with our new CEO. So yeah, good point.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not super worried about it right now. I'm almost positive HGC will be coming back in some shape or form. But because it hasn't been announced, we haven't seen the really full results, I guess, of the quote-unquote roster apocalypse. We've seen little announcements here and there. We've not seen full-on team announcements for the most part. But I do want to highlight two big things. One being Fan is stepping down from Tempo Storm. And he's not just stepping down, he's actually going to be retiring, at least for this season. He wrote a really nice little blog about kind of the why. And honestly, Fan has been in the scene for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Now. So he's one of the originals, pretty much. So it's not super surprising to see this. It's been a long time. When you play something for this long, sometimes you just need a break.
Yeah, and he's citing things like he wants to ramp up his physical health standard and not have as many time constraints and all that. So I mean, again, this is one of many examples of when you see someone go, it's always a somber event to especially see an icon of the scene like Fan leave the scene. But again, I mean, I just generally want people to do what's best for them and what they enjoy in life. So
exactly. And if that's best for him, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Also from a Tempo Storm perspective, Tempo Storm is dropping Vin. So I expect to see him on another team though.
Good player. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Makes sense.
Just coughing like crazy.
Doing okay. Oh, you're muting the coughs? I thought you were just really processing that. Like,
yeah, Vin. Oh man.
What team could he go on? Oh yeah.
I fully expect him to end up on another team. He's a very good player. But again, that leaves Tempo Storm down 2 players.
Yeah.
We don't
which
know
is
who they're
huge.
picking up.
Mhm.
So, and we likely won't until we get HGC details, to be honest.
Right.
So,
And do you think once we get the details, we're going to have kind of an explosion of information about how all the roster changes shook out?
I think so.
Is that your anticipation?
I think we're gonna get HGC details, and then it's just gonna be like, information flood,
right
type thing. But until then, we're probably just gonna see these little trickles, and sadly, one of those little trickles was announced today. Gilly announced on her stream today that she will not be a part of Heroes HGC in 2019, as she pursues another esports venture opportunity.
Yeah, that's not a little trickle, man. That's a big one. Like
It's like Fan has been a staple of competitive heroes for a really long time, and like him, Gilly has been a staple of competitive heroes for a really long time.
We had her on the show forever ago. I think it was just the once, but if I'm not mistaken, I'll go back and look here a bit. But yeah, I think it was like episode 20 she was on, and we talked about Falstad. I remember that.
Yes.
For sure.
And the crunchy taco.
The crunchy taco. That's
the
right.
The Tyrael Judgment into Hinterland's Blast.
So just to illustrate how long ago that was nearing 4 years ago. Give or take a little bit.
Yeah,
Maybe like
I think she was
3.5
one of our
years.
first big guests on the show.
Yeah, I think so.
It was a really good time.
She and Notch from Stormcast.
Yep.
Was one of the first ones. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's been a really huge example, just in the whole Heroes esports scene.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say it again. I want people to pursue what they want. If she's looking into a new esports venture, I hope it's exciting. I hope it's one that I can follow, because I'd tune into her some more as well. But I'm gonna reel back a little bit what I said previously about Fan, and just say I really don't want Gilly to go. Like, she's honestly made this scene here, and it's sad to see her go for sure.
Yeah, I'm really gonna miss Gilly. She's been a staple of the Heroes esports since the beginning, and she's a very hard worker in the scene, and so it will definitely not feel the same without her. But on the flip side, it does open up a spot for some new talent to jump in, and so that in its own way is exciting. That we're gonna get some other people who will get their shot. We don't know about Dread. Dread has not said anything yet.
Oh, really? Okay. That's interesting.
So yeah, we don't know if he's going to be back or not.
Well, but again, a lot of people are just waiting for the details, right? So I could see that being the case with him too.
I guess other than Gilly, technically we don't know if anybody's going to be back.
But again, don't take that statement and listen to this and think that we're among the doomsayer crowd, because they're out there, man. There are doomsayers out there, and I will never be one of those. I'm with you, man. I think it's coming back. I think it's going to be super strong when it returns, and it's just a matter of getting the details.
Hoping they're taking their time and really refining.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's kind of the next thing we wanted to talk about a little bit is, what do you want to see in 2019?
So, despite, when we asked Cawthon the question, he said he didn't seem like it would be that big of a deal, but I would still like to see more crowdfunding efforts other than just the bits and that whole thing, the cheering. I could definitely see, again, anything that really helps the prize pools and helps out the players. Yeah, all right, if it doesn't make a huge impact in their salary and what the salary would have been versus another job, I get all that, but again, it's just a healthy thing. We see it in other games for sure, where sometimes the prize pools on some of these things can get absolutely insane. So, again, rope in some in-game rewards with it, even just chance for loot boxes and that kind of thing. And I could see people going even further nuts with it than they already are the cheering, which does that to a degree, but it's just not the same as like funding a specific tournament, raising the prize.
Yeah, totally.
So I'd like to see that for sure. I'd honestly, one thing I'd really like to see, Ryan, is a lot more of the best of two games, maybe even during the regular season. So I've really enjoyed it in the past.
Like the group
I've
stage type
like the
stuff.
group stage thing, but applied to the regular season because like I try to catch as much as I can, but sometimes some months in particular I get really busy and I'm not able to just watch as much HGC. And I feel like a lot of the sets are kind of decided within the first two anyway. You know, like if there's a large disparity in the skill between the two teams and it's best of three, it's probably going to be a 2-0 anyway. So that would be the same. But then like if they worked out the scoring system to where again, you know, you get more points for 2-0ing somebody, you lose more for 0-2, and then there's something in between for 1-1 where you both take away a little bit. There could be again, it's like a whole little mini game as to all right, who's accrued the amount of points and oh, okay,
Kind of
we're
like
coming up on
soccer
week 4.
scoring.
Yeah, kind of. I could see like we're coming up on week 4, and man, if Tempo Storm ties Heroes Hearth, if they go 1-1, then another team edges up into the third slot for this next coming tournament. You know, there could be a whole like mini metagame to that kind of thing, and it would keep the viewing experience down a little bit. And honestly, the pressure on them as casters, as even players to put in all these games as they've been doing. Um, Streams wouldn't last the entire day necessarily. You could kind of shorten it up a little bit, send people home, maybe take a little extra break in between. I'm not exactly sure, but I could see the two being applied to the entire season. I haven't ran that by you ahead of the show because I wanted to let you know about it here and get your reaction. What do you think about that? Am I onto something?
I think that could be interesting. Like, personally, I don't have time to watch all the league play.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. It's a lot of time and a lot of games on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
So doing something like that, I could be interested, honestly.
If I could sit down to a weekend where like Heroes Hearth plays twice, for instance, right? And I know that the number of games I would watch is 4. Like there's no disparity to it either, you know. I am guaranteed that if I just want to follow Heroes Hearth this weekend and they play twice, there are 4 games I need to catch. Easy to plan around, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I could see it working. I've always enjoyed the group stages for international stuff just because every team gets to play everyone, kind of.
Yeah. And when it is a tie, it's super interesting because then it's like, you know, okay, they adapted, they came back. I mean, again, it cuts down on the number of games, and maybe if it was a best of 3, one of the other teams would have adapted and came out on top there again. So I mean, there's an argument both ways for sure. I could see us maybe getting an email after this where they're like, oh, but what about these considerations? And you're right, those are considerations. But I don't know. I just think if they're looking to shorten it all, that's a way.
Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting suggestion. Personally, I would like to see playoffs done on lands.
Oh yeah,
I think that
seems
would
good.
be a big step in the right direction. No more online playoffs. Use the esports arena. I think that would be good, and it would give a little more weight to those things because playing those things on that low ping environment seems like it would help a lot from a skill consideration perspective. I would like to see ways to highlight individual players
There you go.
on the teams more. I think that is a big weakness of our current system. Is
And
we
more of
don't
a general-
highlight the individual player.
More of a general focus on the players too. One thing I liked, and I forget, I'm blanking on what tournament this was. Not to cut you off again, but there was one where they didn't show the pick and ban screen. They were showing the players going through the ban phase, just even their faces and such, and the picks and bans were being displayed in like a banner down below. I liked that a lot because it just gave their faces more screen time, you know?
Yeah,
get to
no,
kinda
I
think
really
through.
liked that new one they used for BlizzCon.
Yeah, so there's something there too.
Yeah, totally agree. But yeah, so more individual player stuff, lands for playoffs, and then probably as a third thing, a better BlizzCon format.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have to do it 3 days. I don't know if you have to do it as a separate event. But I feel like the biggest tournament of the year needs a better format.
For all the games I just recommended we take out of the regular weekly schedule, add those in to BlizzCon, because a good solid best of 7 finals could have been totally interesting this past BlizzCon, for instance.
Oh, totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a something to be said for best of 5s and best of 7s. Yeah, I don't want to see best of 3s at BlizzCon.
Yeah,
that just makes me sad. But yeah, what do you guys want? What do you guys want for the HGC 2019 season? What would be your hopes and dreams? Tweet at us, email us, lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. Throw something on our Discord. We'd love to hear what you guys would like to see for the 2019 season that would improve over this last season.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
Is that the question of the week?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I like this new routine of the question of the week and going back over it.
Yeah. I think that would be a good question.
Yeah.
Because we don't have announcements or details yet, so anything goes, really, guys.
Watch it come out tomorrow, though.
Yeah, of course.
If they announce all the details tomorrow, you don't have to answer that question. Unless you still want to somehow.
True.
Oh, I wish they really had gone with blank.
And if they have
there
it,
you go.
The sky's the limit. Just go crazy. What do you want to see in 2019?
I'd like to see all the players be millionaires. Millionaires.
I would like that for myself, too.
Yeah.
Since
you said we could go crazy.
Yeah,
so
okay. Yeah, I'll go crazy with you.
Okay.
But yeah, so send us your feedback on that. We'd love to hear from you what you think would improve HGC in 2019. Finally, so some community content shout out. I wanted to shout out this cute little comic by Velwin on Twitter. It's based on the new Heroes toys, and it basically just has a sad little butcher and a sad little stuffed Mephisto dreaming that they were going to be skins, but they're not.
No, and then the pig as well.
And the pig. People are just like, oh, that's gonna be Roadhog and stuff, and it turns out no, it's just along
is that what they thought? I didn't
I heard a few people asking about that, but it turns out no. He is just a little placeholder along with Mephisto plushie and Butcher plushie.
Unless it still is a sign that Roadhog's the next one.
Could be a teaser.
We just had a hook change to our normal hook guy to open up the door for another hook guy. Guys,
yeah?
It's never made sense that Junkrat is in the game when Roadhog is not. Like, they're kind of a pair.
It would be really funny if that ended up being the next hero.
Speaking of, totally random tangent, there's got to be one more hero for the year, right? In December? And if so, when?
Maybe, but I mean, maybe not.
Yeah, with the event, with the holidays coming up.
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't one before January.
Did my knocking over of the mic really come through there?
Yep.
I'll cut it out.
Totally destroyed my ears, but it's okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
We love you anyways. Yeah, I don't think, just looking with a patch going live on the 11th, the next hero patch, they would have to release a hero patch on the 25th, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, probably not.
Or even the 1st. Like, I very much doubt we'll see a PTR on the 24th.
Kind of problem. Although, I mean, perfect day to stay at home and play some heroes, but
not the perfect day to be in the office working.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So, no, okay, maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah. So, I could be wrong, but don't get your hopes up for another hero before the end of the year. That's my guess. Unless
And I
it
mean,
just kind of comes out of nowhere.
The whole year built up to Orphea anyway, so
It does feel like
that's
it
fine.
makes sense to end on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, I had shouted this out a few weeks ago, the Town Hall Winter Brawl. But Solid Jake actually tweeted out that the Winter Brawl plans are currently on hold because the XP changes are a nightmare. And they still have no idea what HGC dates look like. So if it happens, it'll be mid to late January.
Which will still be the winter. So, in fact, it'll be even more wintry, possibly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, checks out. That's fine.
So
Doesn't have
just
to be
as a
Christmas.
heads up, I love all the tournaments he throws. So I'd be very sad if that didn't happen. But hopefully it does. Because those are always a lot of fun and are really good content in between HGC seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. So finally, our last little bit, question of the week stuff. We asked this week, what would you like to see if this, again, sky's the limit, guys. If you wanted, if you could pick anything, what would you like to see from a Heroes perspective in the Blizzard Gear Store in 2019?
Yep, we got a lot of responses back. Mine, at least, was just all caps, these toys. Because as we mentioned earlier, totally would get that Cuddle Bear Stitches immediately.
Or the action figures.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if I'd get the Valir one. That's just a personal thing. But the Dahaka, oh, yeah. Which, by the way, also, all these years now of trying to guess whether or not Dahaka was a dinosaur, proven now, in my mind. Totally proven.
That's true. I personally want to see those more statues.
Yeah, I can see that. Specifically, maybe even Orphea, just because it's the Nexus specific.
Well, they rolled out the Greymane and Sorrowfang Warcraft, like mid-price like the $50, $60 statues.
Right.
Why? Let's get some Heroes versions of those with hero skins. Like,
That would be
how awesome
interesting,
would be like a little rag, Janitor Leoric, Marauder Muradin, Orphea.
Janitor Leoric would be.
I would buy
iconic,
the
actually.
crap out of $50 or $60 like Heroes skin statues like that. No questions.
What if the next? Let's just throw this out there. What if the next major statue unveiled at like BlizzCon 2019 is Janitor Leoric, specifically? That'd be great.
Or they had like an actual like large version of him.
Yeah. No, like the full site, like the Jaina unveiling this.
I
this
totally
year.
support it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All the support.
Oh yeah.
So what else caught your eye that people wanted?
Looks like so. A lot of people were talking about the toys too. So good call there. I totally agree with you. Some interesting ones. So Cat Pete writes in, give me a long sleeve shirt or hoodie that's celestial themed. So all of those celestial skins that we've seen, I could see that for sure. Let's see. Some other specifics about like there's one about requesting better shipping rates to Mexico. That's probably a good call. And then we had one on the it's actually from Workhorse on HeroesHearth, where we posted the question: thematic onesies like the Murlocs that we saw at BlizzCon, and mugs. I love mugs.
I love mugs
Definitely
too.
on board with mugs. Yeah. But yeah. Let's see if anything else jumped out at me here. How about you?
I'm always like, I want consumer versions of the dev shirts.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
Like
specifically that rag one from a couple
oh
years
my
ago.
gosh,
Man.
I would buy that thing in a heartbeat. It's so good. Like they always make amazing shirts, and it's just like throw those on the gear store so I can give you all my money. The Butcher plushie from the little toy thing. It's just like,
yeah, could see that.
Yeah, if you're not gonna make it a skin, just make it a plushie. It's adorable. Enamel pins.
Oh yeah, okay.
There's a lot of people who like to collect those. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
The Butcher plushie, I'm picturing like that he is still holding a meat cleaver, and it has like a chunk of bloody meat on it, but it's all just plushy.
And it's adorable.
And it's adorable and yet kind of messed up at the same time.
And just like Butcher.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Butcher apron.
Ooh, yeah. Already pre-blood spattered for you?
Oh, someone is saying apparently there's a Butcher apron already or something like that. There's honestly, there's just so much they could do. Like,
yeah,
I think out of all their IPs, Heroes has the most flexibility for gear, and it is the least utilized.
And to make it truly Heroes specific, it's somehow still got to be, again, like skins or Orphea or other things like I would totally buy plushies of these new unicorns. We were talking about that earlier today.
Oh yeah, the unicorn.
The unicorn mounts.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, there's so many good ideas. Just please, Blizzard, give them to us so that we can buy that. I bet other people from Overwatch would buy a Tracer statue of her like Spectre skin.
Yeah, I could see
something.
That. How about this? Super cheesy. You know how you can get those really low quality glass unicorns? That, but Wonder William, like a really glossy,
like the pretty like the thing that looks super expensive, glass blown
but it's not,
thing. Yeah.
It's got like some glitter along the bottom and stuff. Yeah, that, but Wonder William
would buy
for sure. Mm-hmm.
Just any unique Heroes themed stuff, I would buy. So thanks guys for sending that in and tweeting at us. A lot of really good ideas in there. Well, that's it. That is it for the show, and that is just about it for my voice. I am dying tonight for some reason.
I couldn't tell.
Apparently, I've been talking a lot. It's been a super busy month so far. But before we go,
didn't have Gizmo here to do some of the talking.
It's
so
true.
like when one's gone, the remaining ones, a lot more talking.
Yeah, a lot more talking.
Uh-huh.
So that means I get to turn it over to you to tell everybody where we can be reached.
Well, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon, actually, at Lords of the Storm, under all that stuff for sure. And again, thanks to anyone that's even considered Patreon. We really do appreciate you guys. Even if you gave a little bit in the past and quit, totally cool, totally optional. You never had to in the first place. So if you even thought about it, we appreciate it. Reminding you one last time that there is that December patron giveaway where near the end of the month here, probably not really near the end, right? Because the holidays, but in a few weeks here, we're going to be trying to decide who gets that Orphea poster via random selection, of course. So check that out there. We're also on Twitch, twitch.tv/HeroesHearth these days. Still same time slot, 9 p.m. Central. You can find us in-game by typing /join space LOTS, or you can join our Discord, bit.ly/lotsdiscord. And yeah, like TBK said, you can email us with feedback or questions, lordsofthestorm@outlook.com, especially if you want to let us know what you want in HGC 2019 this time around. And again, if anyone can take a moment to leave a review, preferably a positive one, but hey, you just leave us your opinions. We really do appreciate it for sure. iTunes is probably the best place, but anywhere else that you listen to podcasts probably has a method for that. Before I get into us individually, I do want to look it up, and I will confirm the plural of radius is radii. RADII. And when you look it up, there's another website called what might be radiifootwear.com, but it might also be rad2. Like Roman numerals 2. It's weirding me out. Anyway, you can find Gizmozord. I just thought I'd have a little interlude there.
Why not?
Right. Gizmozord is not here, presumably Chicago. I'm not sure. If you can find him in Chicago, bonus points. Tweet us the picture of when you found him in Chicago. And I don't know, there's probably a prize in that. But you can find him on Twitter at Gizmozord and on twitch.tv/Gizmozord sometimes maybe, but occasionally as well on the Convert to Raid Battle.net News podcast there too. So I myself can be found on Twitter at Multizord, and you can also find me on Hearth Casual, where again, we just had a new expansion come out yesterday, the Rostacon's Rumble, and we got a lot to talk about this week on it. So we got a full episode this week for sure for you guys. So We're going to be recording it tomorrow night. It should be out Friday, as usual. So, TBK, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord and on HeroesHearth, where I should hopefully have another article coming out in the next week or two, sometime before Christmas. Unfortunately, with all the busyness, my next map concept has been pushed back, but I will hopefully have that out sometime in January. I'm really excited about it. I've been working on it for a little while now, so good things. Good things.
Yeah.
We'd also like to give a special thanks to our patron producer, Ouroboros, for helping support the show. Thank you so much, guys, and for bearing with me through my horrible voice things tonight. We very much appreciate you watching and playing with us, and we've got it's almost Christmas.
Yeah.
We got 2 more weeks, and then we will be taking Christmas week off, and then we'll return after Christmas holidays and march towards episode 200.
Yeah, we're close.
And the 4-year anniversary.
I was going to say, your voice does sound roughly the same to me. I don't know if that means that your voice is just horrible all of the time or what there.
I'm just trying really hard.
Yeah, that could be it.
And I'm gonna wake up. Yeah, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning, and I'm not gonna have any voice at all.
Let's go to work and be like, "Hi guys.
Hey guys, how you doing? We should probably end the show though."
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay. Good.
Bye.
Bye, guys.